around 6 months ago, this guy here, the face behind In Praise of Shadows, a media critique video essay channel, uploaded a video about bad conservative horror movies. And at the end of that video, he had a 40-minute segment talking about what a right-winged lunatic Wendigoon is. Wendigoon, like the horror story Bible YouTuber guy. And he got a lot of backlash to that segment. So much so that I believe he at first just removed that segment from the video, but then eventually deleted the whole video from his channel or privated it. Either way, he did end up privating the video. It's not on his channel anymore. This is a re-upload here, courtesy of Rob's Media. But it is a very long segment, so before we go into his actual apology, I want to show you a little bit of what he was saying about Wendigoon, because he does not get into any of the specifics at all. He keeps it very vague, very broad. So I cut down the segment as much as I could to give you a good idea of what this guy was saying about Wendigoon.
If you're not aware, Wendigoon is a horror conspiracy theorist YouTuber with several million subscribers that, as you will hopefully come to see, should not be seen as the wholesome, southern-friendly dad persona that he has publicly constructed around himself in the past several years. And that, like many people who talk about being Christians as much as he does, has a dark past with deep ties to far-right extremism. On a base level, his work has never been of personal interest to me. We share a similar focus on topics that we like to write about, but our similarities basically end there.
Well, to make it clear, I'm nothing like this Wendigoon guy, alright? We just are in the same space, but he does it totally wrong, alright? I do it the right way, not Wendigoon.
No need or desire to hear 5 hours of opinions on Blood Meridian from a 21-year-old millionaire who got famous around the age of 19. And I know that is probably the most boomer thing that I've ever said. Apologies for that. But
It sounds more bitter than boomer, actually. Oh, and since he says that, show this part. That's also from that video. This was not in the Wendigoon segment of the video that he deleted, but I think it gives you a little bit of an idea that he might be motivated by bitterness, at least a little bit here.
I used to hit 200 to 400,000 views per video, and now I'm hitting 50 to 100,000 most of the time, saying the exact same message that I used to say back then. But now I think with more skill than I used to have, with higher production values. And now, every time I make a video, the comments are often swamped with people still living off that meme of an idea, who only show up to say mean things about me and leave, that all started with The Hills Have Eyes. I used to not have that happen.
He's talking about after some video that he did about The Hills Have Eyes. I can't even remember what he said, but he got a lot of critique for it. I think he pissed off people who were sympathetic to Native Americans, if I'm remembering correctly, but I don't remember. But regardless, that's just what he's referring to, that he always, ever since that video, gets at least 1 or 2 people leaving a mean comment on his videos.
If you go look, literally there is a hostile comment on every single video now within maybe 2 to 3 minutes of posting a new video. Say if you were to go back and look at my recent video on blood tea and red string, within a minute of the video coming out, a man had posted, "I'm just here to see how long it takes him to whine about the racist patriarchy." To which someone else said, "If you dislike his videos so much, why do you watch and comment on them instead of watching something you actually enjoy?"
Like, why do you feel the need to bring this up? Your fans already took care of it, right? He got ratioed for that comment. Why do you care so much so that you're putting it in this video?
To which he said in return, "'Cause I'm a dig." This meme of an idea has directly
Like, that's all he wants. He just wants attention from you, basically. He wants to get under your skin. And then you just made a video to publicly admit, hey, I just wanted to call out this one comment that really bothered me, all right? It really got to me.
impacted my work, my sense of self, and the videos that I am able to make. And I don't really think that that's fair. There was a month last year where I only made $500 in ad revenue. I can't live off that. The amount of times that I've almost had to stop making videos since then has been almost monthly. I've barely been able to keep this afloat. I've paid my rent late most months for the past year. The cruel and untrue things that you say about another person.
So yeah, he back in the day, he was getting like double the views that he gets now, saying the same stuff. But now he's barely scraping together a living doing this YouTube stuff. That's rough. That must be so hard. That you live paycheck to paycheck doing YouTube. And the dude, like look, he doesn't upload a ton. 6 months ago, 6 months ago, 6 months ago, 8, 10, a year. Like, he's not, there's no way he's doing 40 to 50 hours a week every week to pump out that level of videos, right? So you just can't make it seem like you're working that hard. All right, you fell off. It happens. Well, and you didn't even necessarily fall off. Like there's ups and downs, peaks and valleys to everybody on YouTube. You know, you just got to figure out another hook or whatever to draw more people in, something. Innovate a little bit more. Maybe stop saying the same things that you were saying the whole time.
But I say that to argue that I really do think that there are some works that are really not intended to hit the right way until we are older. There are some works that fundamentally will not be understood by you if you are wealthy and have always been upper class your entire life. And this may all sound condescending, but that doesn't stop it from being.
Oh, I don't even know if I tied that, but the Wendigoon obviously makes way better money. He gets way more views. So it seems like that's at least part of why he wanted to critique Wendigoon, you know? If he wasn't making the big bucks, probably would have gone after somebody who was instead.
Somewhat true. I'm not even here to criticize his body of work. I think his videos are very uninteresting. But ultimately, that is secondary to what makes him worth talking about. The first of which.
Yeah, and even though he thinks Wendigoon's videos suck, he still gets more views and more money than him.
Are the very strong beliefs that he seems to hold as important, that are in my opinion the antithesis of what horror should be about. There are many things that are red flags that we could talk about, from the bizarre gun ownership, the flagrant use from my.
The bizarre gun ownership. Bro, there are more guns than people in the United States. What are you talking about? And he says he lives in Appalachia. So I don't know why he would say bizarre gun ownership. It's very normal in the United States to own a gun. It's not bizarre.
Perspective of his religion as a shield from criticism, to the belief that he at one point followed many far-right accounts on Twitter, from Kyle Rittenhouse to Parler, the social media web.
And so here he says following somebody, that means you're co-signing their ideas, basically. But later he will use following somebody to mean something very different. So basically, following means whatever he needs it to mean for his point.
Site where the January 6th insurrection was in part planned. People said, oh, he only followed them. But that doesn't mean that he agrees with them. But there are screenshots of tweets that may have been deleted, that clearly in my mind show a support to Rittenhouse. Although, since I did not take these screenshots, they do have to be taken with a grain of salt. But in relation to everything else that we're going to talk about here, to me it seems to
So he doesn't even know for sure if those screenshots are real.
fall in line with his general beliefs. These have been widespread across the internet, and to my knowledge, I can find no examples of him directly saying that these are not real. So he may or may not have actually followed these accounts or supported them. But I do not believe that he has ever outright said that this did not happen, so take that as you will. We could talk about his past in supposedly being a founding member in an online conspiracy theory group that, according to him, snowballed out of control into being a white supremacist neo-Nazi organization called the Boogaloo Boys. His online username at the time was Boogaloo Boy, and he claims to be the first to have started using it, but that he left the group and became Wendigoon after things started to get out of hand. And this is not a conspiracy theory in itself. Shockingly, he literally has said so in writing, as you'll see. He was just like, oh geez, sorry guys, about starting a violent hate group guys. Sorry that people got killed. I totally didn't mean to do all that. My bad. I'll do better next time. Also, it should be noted that the Boogaloo Boys are known.
So there he acts like, you know, oh, Wendigoon did this horrible thing founding this group. But then he's just going to go on to say, I don't think he did. I don't think he did found the group.
For wearing Hawaiian shirts. And guess who else always has on a Hawaiian shirt, despite the fact that he publicly totally does not share in their beliefs, guys. I'm just saying.
It's just so dumb because obviously he's wearing the Hawaiian shirt for the joke, but that's the thing. You don't know why somebody's wearing a piece of clothing, right? Like KSI, Brandon Buckingham, and we don't have like any common ideology. We just wear headbands, right? There's nothing more to it. Even if you can find some extremist group who's like, oh, yeah, we wear headbands.
That if at the very least I, in any way whatsoever.
Oh, and while I'm on it, Brandon Buckingham does have a headband pass, but KSI does not, just to be clear, because I don't really want people to think that he should be allowed to associate with me in that way. He's not, he does not have the pass. I've never given it, nobody has. So, I mean, the thing is, he's going to be denied anyway if he were to go through the proper channels, and that's why he won't. And that's why he just wears the headband despite all of the rules.
Somehow, accidentally, inadvertently, started a hate group. I wouldn't continue to still dress like them if it were me. It would make me look like I still believed in their cause, and that I just couldn't talk about it because people would publicly get mad at
Or he likes Hawaiian shirts.
me. If I accidentally started a hate terrorist organization, I wouldn't rebrand as a horror YouTuber the next year, and instead would try and fight that ideology as much as I could. And if I didn't do that, then it would probably be fair for people to assume that.
But what if he just realized that politics is dumb and not fun, right? What if he just did that? And he's like, I don't want to do politics anymore, really. I want to do something more lighthearted.
that I still agreed with their actions. At one point, he posted on his subreddit and wrote, "Someone asked me about my old Boogaloo Boy persona, so I made my response and thought I'd share it to set the record straight. Again, I hate being political, but I wanted to clear this up. Love y'all, thanks." The statement that he included with this read, "Alright, so I'll go ahead and make my official statement here, because better to come straight from me. Over 2 years ago, I was among the first to begin using the term Boogaloo. Originally, it was a rendition of Che Guevara's, not that he was a good person by any means, code word for revolution, and I have always been a proponent of freedom and liberty. I believe in the divine rights of every human, and therefore, aspects of self-independence are important to me. So I began using the word in small settings, and then decided to make a meme page using the name as no one had yet done so. To give you an idea, my name was Boogaloo Boy, and several have pointed to me as being the original and started the Hawaiian shirt thing, as I've always just worn those shirts. However,
So he even says here, he just likes wearing Hawaiian shirts. But somehow that, for some reason, he needs to change that now that he's not part of this group
as
anymore.
the term became mainstream, more ideas began to come into the group. Everything from Antifa members to fascists wanted in on it, and the original idea became muddled and broken. I always meant it as a for the people thing, yet it quickly became something else. To give you an idea, I watched the same news station call it a far leftist movement and a far right movement in the same day. It became something I didn't want to be a part of, and so I left. I dropped the name, took a break, and decided to talk about things I enjoyed like conspiracies and movies, under the new title, Wendigoon. It was something I acknowledge, but am not a part of anymore for what it became. Some of my current followers and friends were with me then, but I'm not a part of that anymore. So, do you remember when armed men were arrested a few years ago for planning the kidnapping of Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmire? That was the Boogaloos. Do you remember when white people showed up at the George Floyd protests and caused property damage and violence in the hopes that black people would be blamed for that? That was the Boogaloos. A great deal of their members were spotted.
So he just starts listing recent things that the Boogaloo Boys have supposedly done. Okay. He said he's not part of it. You don't seem to be contesting it. Why would it matter what the group does later? Right? Sounds like he said he left because he maybe saw inklings of it going in this direction.
In the Capitol during the January 6th insurrection. In 2020, they killed several police officers in a drive-by shooting in Oakland, hoping that black people would be blamed for the violence, in an attempt to create racial tension. The reason they use the word Boogaloo is in reference to a meme
He's trying to tie this to Wendigoon.
that says Civil
Why else bring it up in the Wendigoon segment?
War II Electric Boogaloo, obviously in reference to the 1984 film Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. Okay, so let's take a closer look at some of the phrasing of his official statement. First off, I have tried and failed to find any connection to the word Boogaloo to Che Guevara. In fact, when you Google Che Guevara Boogaloo, you just get things related to Wendigoon. When you type in Che Guevara word for revolution, you get things related to Wendigoon. Che Guevara died in 1967, and the earliest example of the word Boogaloo that I can find was in 1966, in relation to the musical style. So I would wager that that is more than likely a lie, to cover his actual intentions and sympathies that he held as a seemingly radicalized teenager. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, the word Boogaloo began to appear in online forums related to hate content on 4chan somewhere between 2010 and 2012, when, Wendigoon would have been about 10 to 12 years old. Specifically, I have seen multiple times that it is believed to have been born on gun-related forums. I can find no evidence that within their organizational structure, that they have any allusion to their values starting or being connected to Che Guevara in any capacity. So claiming
So, to me, it sounds like he's saying the Boogaloo Boy term came up on meme pages around the time that Wendigoon would have been like 10 to 12 years old. So he could have just been a kid who followed, sort of edgy memes and that sort of thing, and thought he was more involved in like a movement than he did, right? Because he's a dumb kid, and he thinks, oh, we're the first guys to do Boogaloo or whatever, and just overestimating his importance in that, because he's a kid, he doesn't have any sense for the scale of this stuff yet.
he was the first to start using it, or among the first, is not true, and is frankly a bizarre claim to make. By the time he would have made his Boogaloo Boy username, the word would have already had a near decade of being entrenched into the deepest layers of alt-right internet radicalized extreme racism. He wants to simultaneously be seen as distant from the organization, but still dresses like them on a daily basis, and fully takes responsibility in claiming that he started their movement, that was already in motion at least 7 or so years before his involvement, which to me just kinda seems like he enjoys taking the credit for that. As historically, he already had an out that he was in middle school when it truly actually began. And if he's lying about these things, it just makes me wonder, what else is he lying about? And the difficulty in seeing the lies in between the things that are true is always the point with these kinds of people, who say, for instance, that they do not believe in far-right hate, while doing something else at the same time, such as wearing a
When he edits like this, it's very creepy. I don't like seeing this Wendigoon creature that's just a mouth surrounded by beard. Very gross. Not a fan.
distinctly coded Hawaiian shirt that would be understood by the initiated. He makes the bizarre false claim that he invented the use of the word boogaloo as a for-the-people kind of thing, and he doesn't believe in what that group did with his idealization of anti-government ideals, and also wants it to be very clear that he is not a political person. But to my ears, this is all conservative doublespeak. And I hope that this is becoming obvious to you as well. In my opinion, there is a regular pattern of behavior there, from supporting Rittenhouse to having multiple ties to other far-right extremist figures, that I think a clear picture is
Like, look at this picture that he's putting up saying far-right extremists.
that he does not mean this as a communist kind of thing, and seemingly more so means people as a very select group.
Yeah, Brandon Buckingham, one of the bearded guys there is Brandon Herrera. Then Turkey Tom, that one's Wendigoon there, and I'm assuming that guy is another gun tuber. Is this supposed to be scary? That we're supposed to like draw sinister conclusions about Wendigoon because of this? Because some YouTubers went to a gun range or something?
Wendigoon is very publicly friends with Turkey Tom. They have been seen together on multiple occasions, and I've seen online mentions that Tom was either at his wedding or at the very least was invited. Tom has been accused of using the N-word.
Like, so much of this is, and I think maybe it might be this way, but I haven't bothered to really confirm any of it.
Multiple times in private conversations, including these screenshots of texts that are alleged to be real. And he's also
And he associates with somebody who said the N-word. I mean, oof. You might as well just throw him in a pit, right?
been accused of saying that the upper tiers of his Patreon were intended for Jews with deep pockets. Wendigoon is publicly connected to the Internet Historian, and has even appeared in his videos. The Internet Historian publicly said that his birthday was April 20th. It is not, and has only said that as a joke because that is Hitler's birthday.
Or 420. Like, I feel like that's the reason people say that their birthday is April 20th. Because it's like the meme number. Maybe you could say 69 rivals 420. But what is it? January, March, April, May, June. I don't hear people saying that they were born June 9th, really, right? It's just so dumb. You're really good, and that's all he has about Internet Historian. He said his birthday was 420, so he must love Hitler.
Wendigoon is publicly friends with Donut Operator, and even retweeted a photograph of the two of them hugging. Donut Operator is a gun-crazed, very far-right YouTuber with 4 million subscribers, whose career consists of him reviewing footage of police officers shooting and killing people. He was once a cop himself, before he made more money making YouTube videos and retired. His content is very pro-state, pro-cop, pro-gun, and pro-death to people who don't share his beliefs propaganda. For example, one of his videos is titled Predator Takes Shotgun to the Face, and features a picture of him smiling in the corner of the thumbnail next to an image of a
It's just so bizarre to me that this is the one that he chooses to single out. A predator? Like, this guy likes a predator getting taken out? And we're supposed to hate him for that? Like, I get if you'd say, oh, it's better that, all criminals get arrested and go to prison or whatever. Sure. Ideally, you'd want everything to go through the proper systems. But I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, that's so messed up that he didn't care that a predator died. Just like, who are these points supposed to win over? Other people in your lefty echo chamber? It's just nuts.
terrified man
That's the video you choose to single out.
about to be executed by cops, with the text that reads, head removal.
Hi everyone, Donut here. We got a couple of shootings for you today. The main shooting just warms my heart.
And for someone who supposedly is
Like, he seems cool. I like him more than you.
so very anti-government, Wendigoon seems very comfortable with a man who makes his living worshipping violence committed by the state. He's a man of no conviction, claiming to be very against the government and for the rights of the people, while at the same time giving a warm embrace to one of the biggest fascist bootlickers on the internet. And the only thing that one could reasonably gather from this picture of them hugging is that he too is a fascist bootlicker himself. He has collaborated with Nick Crowley, who constantly
Or, I mean, maybe he does agree with Donut Operator on everything, but I would think not on everything. But you have friends that you disagree with politically, right? Being friends with somebody does not mean you co-sign every belief that they have. This just straight up guilt by association stuff is so lame. Like, maybe people don't want to vet all of the opinions of all of their friends to see if they're qualified as a potential friend, right? Maybe they just met them or talked to them and thought they were all right, and then they became friends. Like, not everybody is so politics obsessed that's how they see everybody. It's through their political views.
He makes money through the most morbid and shameful true crime content of showcasing the last minutes of people before they are suddenly and unexpectedly killed. Crowley is similar to Wendigoon, in that on the surface they seem fairly edgy, but clean enough. But then you notice that he follows less than 200 people on Twitter, and among them are the same circle with names like Wendigoon, Plagued Moth, Turkey Tom, Mr. Ballin, and Donut Operator. Wendigoon has collaborated with Plagued Moth, a completely shameful content creator who reviewed snuff films on his Patreon before it was taken down, and has been
Plagued Moth does seem like a disgusting freak from what I've seen. I don't know anything about that Nick Crowley guy. But yeah, Plagued Moth, he's the guy. You might have seen a video about him because I think it's a video of like somebody stomping on a person's head and he's counting every stomp and laughing along. He's a crazy, sick freak.
accused of showing
But I don't know also how long ago this was that he associated with Plagued Moth. And, if the Plagued Moth had already done that sort of stuff and Wendigoon collabed with him, yeah, that's definitely a point to get some. But I don't know the order, and I don't think he says here.
genuine gore content to minors on Discord, and whose main YouTube channel consists of him reviewing censored videos of horrible acts of real-life violence and death. He is publicly friends with Shoe on Head, who is a conservative masquerading as a leftist, who has built a career off of lazy anti-woke content, complaining about SJWs, who says stuff like, Karl Marx rising from the grave finding out his movement has been taken over by fat, ugly, mentally ill losers. He is friends with Brandon Buckingham,
Again, that's what oh my god, Shoe on Head is so bad. She
who
said,
says stuff like,
Karl Marx rising from the grave to find out his movement has been taken over by fat, ugly, mentally ill losers who think being healthy is fascism and can't even own guns because they will kill themselves. But it's a joke, man. And I mean, there is some truth to it. Like, I don't think Karl Marx would be happy that so many of the people who are for his ideology are just lazy bums.
Marx rising from the grave finding a gun-obsessed content creator that has taken advantage of Nakado Avocado's mental decline for fame.
So, Oompaville is a gun-obsessed YouTuber. Like, this dude is just insane. His characterizations are wild.
And for money. And on top of that, has made content with the human trafficker, Andrew Tate. He is friends with Mutahar, who argued against Andrew Tate being deplatformed from social media websites, and has recently showcased a great deal of transphobia in his most recent video. He is
Like, no, he didn't. Alright, the only thing people even argued was that the thumbnail was transphobic, which it looks like all of Just a Worm's other art, if you ask me. Exact same style, so I don't really understand how you can say that, even if I think they did find Just a Worm's Kiwi Farms posts, and he definitely does not seem to be a fan of trans people, if I remember correctly. But that doesn't mean that the art is, right? He did Vosh and all of these other people who look just as bad as Keffels did in that thumbnail.
publicly interacted in a friendly way with the account Rock Solid on multiple occasions, and with just a quick look at their profile, I saw them liking anti-trans posts and neo-Nazi content. He interacts positively with Disclose.tv, a far-right propaganda website that uses hate speech, engages in Holocaust denialism, and platforms neo-Nazis. He has appeared in content with Mr. Gunzengear, whose Twitter bio reads, dedicated to restoring the civil rights of Americans. But despite that,
Oh no, civil rights. Like, why does he point some of this stuff out?
he's tweeted negatively about trans people many times. He has interacted positively with Goran Thumb, who has said, the traditional family should be encouraged and strengthened.
Like, how many layers of association even are we now? And in the comment, he said, the traditional family should be encouraged and strengthened. I see little to no support from the government or big media. Okay? So he likes family values? I'm supposed to have a problem with him for that?
I see little to no support from the government or big media. He has said anti-trans statements. He has called people degenerates, and has said that non-traditional sexual interactions are a
Swinging is a disgusting hedonistic lifestyle and is the breakdown of
disgusting
society, the
hedonistic
family
lifestyle.
unit.
That is the breakdown of the family unit. Wendigoon is publicly friends with Brandon Herrera, who
Like, hey, I mean, I agree with that. Swingers are weird, gross. You really, you're gonna sit here and defend Nick Rekieta?
has made jokes that implied that he was sympathetic with public shooters who killed leftists, and collaborated with Kyle Rittenhouse, who has posted images of himself with an MP40, which is a gun used by the Nazis, that he described as the original ghetto blaster. I've also seen people insinuate that Herrera was with Wendigoon in the days of being part of the Boogaloo movement, but I cannot find substantial proof on if this is true or not. But I've seen several comments saying this, so online it is at least culturally believed to be true. He has appeared in gun-related content with Haley Luan, an influencer whose content is based entirely around making the United States military appear fun and bizarrely sexually appealing. Which again, for someone who is supposedly anti-government, he sure does seem to have a lot of wealthy white friends who actively work to uphold the values of the American empire. Or we could talk about the time that he stole art to use in promotional material for his videos, and then blamed it on his editorial team instead of just taking the responsibility.
Jesus. My apologies. Neocranium makes great content. No disrespect was meant at all. The image was put together by a friend as a teaser and was never meant to be the thumbnail for my video. I should have clarified if fan art was used. Either way, my bad. Here's the real thumbnail. Okay. I mean, that doesn't sound all that bad to me. If this is what you got on this guy, all right? Like, yeah, you should give people credit and not steal their designs.
Then, of course, there is his username. To the Algonquin people, the Wendigo is a negative spiritual symbol that is to be avoided and whose name is to never even be said out loud or written down. So I know there's a bit of a hypocrisy there on my part, but we kind of do have to say it for academic purposes, so apologies for that. The other thing that I would add to this is that Wendigoon and I are practically neighbors, and I know this area very well. Wendigoon lives somewhere just on the other side of the reservation. That is not me doxing him. He has said many times publicly that he lives in East Tennessee, and I'm not even saying what town he lives in. According to the latest census, there are only 23 black people who live in Maggie Valley. There are 15.
Yeah, Maggie Valley is supposedly where Wendigoon lives, and he is giving the racial statistics of who lives in Maggie Valley. They only have 23 black people, I think he said.
Native Americans despite it touching the reservation. Most of this
Back.
despite it touching the reservation. Most of this area is Maggie Valley. There are 15 Native Americans despite it touching the reservation. Most of this area used to be sundown towns.
How bizarre. How bizarre to mention the number of black people and Native Americans. It is just such a bizarre way to view the world.
It is about as white as you could possibly get. Deep Appalachia is very white country, and for the most part, is exceptionally racist. Genuinely in this part of the country, you have to assume that any white person you meet is racist unless they show you otherwise. It is obvious that he just thought,
So everybody that lives in Appalachia is racist until they prove to me that they're not. Okay, I thought we weren't just supposed to broadly stereotype people, right? Just assign moral values to people based off of things like where they were born or what they look like. No, was that not bad? I thought it was.
Wendigos were cool, and has come up with some seemingly strange backstory lie that is easily proven to not be true. Lastly, I was raised in Appalachia.
Yeah, that's so he's. There's some cuts here and stuff because it's not that interesting that he's not supposed to say Wendigo or whatever. But yeah, his whole point here is that it's wrong of him to use it, and then the story for why he uses it is not okay.
And my entire life has been filled with stories of the mountains and creatures that lurk in the dark. My culture is as American as any, and I recognize the importance in keeping the fire alive. I in no way mean this to attack or to be direct, just a simple reply. If we develop the idea that we can't speak of certain people, then we're no better than those who silence them.
So I cut out some of the comment, but he's just arguing against like saying it's cultural appropriation for him to talk about these subjects and use the name Wendigo and stuff like that. And Wendigoon's just saying, okay, well, if you say I'm not allowed to talk about it and people who look like me aren't allowed to talk about it, this culture's just going to die and nobody's going to talk about it at all.
He's basically using the I have.
Like, obviously, there's a level of respect that you should have. You know, you probably don't want you don't want Wendigoon to come on and wear a giant novelty headdress and go whoa, 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 and do a fire dance or his imitation of a fire dance, right? Like that would make sense if you called that cultural appropriation and had a problem with that. Like, okay, yeah, that's pretty disrespectful. But just using a altered version of a word that they use and talking about their culture, it's so bizarre, so bizarre.
Black friend's excuse to tell indigenous people to fuck off and to not bother him, so that he can continue without criticism to make a lot of money by selling plushies of a monster that was invented by a white British man that is ultimately making fun of their culture, as well as plastic figurines, posters, shirts, and other merchandise that depicts Wendigos. Donut Operator, you know, the ex-cop who makes death content. The Wendigoon shared a picture of the two of them hugging not long after this, can be found in the comments of this post asking if Wendigoon wants him to start killing people who said that he was right-wing. I think that this is an all-time bad public statement that says absolutely nothing substantial. And that's the point. I quote tweeted this and said, not that I have a stake in this whatsoever, but this is such a non-statement that doesn't even address any of the issues that folks are criticizing him.
So Wendigoon says some rude and slanderous things have been said about my character, and I just want to clarify that I'm not right-wing or bigoted or anything besides thankful for my opportunity to make goofy YouTube videos. The only thing I believe in is loving God and my wife. And I mean, I don't really watch Wendigoon content. It's not my thing. I pretty much just stick to drama. But I've seen him on PKA a little bit, clips of that. And yeah, he just seems like a church guy, gun-loving guy who leans to the right. This characterization of him is wild. But yeah, in Praise of Shadows has lots to say to him on Twitter.
4. Someone using their religion as a shield in the same breath as claiming that they believe in nothing politically is a red flag. Oh, I'm just a goofy, wholesome boy. Please don't ask me why I follow less than 500 people and one of them was Kyle Rittenhouse. Don't ask me about all the guns that I post pictures of. I promise I have no strong beliefs. Apolitical, really. Why are you slandering me?
Speed, it's so bizarre to have this guy posting these unhinged things. But like, what the hell? This guy's got hundreds of thousands of subs. He's just characterizing me as just an absolute extremist who's basically out ready to go out there and take down protesters and stuff if they don't vote for Trump. Like,
I really only care about this because if you have that large of a platform and make your money from being a public persona, then you are no longer fully a private person, and your political beliefs do in fact matter and are a fair topic of debate.
sure, if you want to talk about them, go ahead. But they're not relevant to everybody. It's only these weirdo politics people who see it in every single thing. Like, a lot of people do not view the world like this. Their opinions are mostly from their experience. And, obviously, if their experience tend to go in one direction, they'll take the ideas that are associated with that. But they won't believe those as strongly. Like, the stuff that he actually talks about, that's the stuff I would imagine he really believes. If you're reaching this much to try and say he believes all these other horrible things, I don't think you have a strong case.
You can't get mad if people call you unquestionable things that are said or done if you are making money off of them. And what resulted from some good faith criticism of his use of language was days upon days of people calling me a faggot, amongst other things, but that was their go-to word. And to be honest, if you're a public figure who is being criticized,
It's like, yeah, if you critique somebody, their fans are going to say stuff to you, right? And it's ridiculous to complain about this. Like, I made videos on Anthony Cumia, and his fans are, they're older and they're from a different environment of the Opie and Anthony show. So they're a little bit meaner than average YouTube commenters. But it'd be ridiculous for me to upload, 6 or 7 videos, however many I did, talking shit about Anthony Cumia, and then be like, oh, and then his fans made mean comments. Like, yeah, if you put your opinion out there, and especially if it's a negative opinion of somebody, you might get some pushback. And if you can't handle that, probably not cut out to be a YouTuber.
publicly, and the only people who come to your defense are Nazis, then that can only be read as two ways. Either that you're sympathetic to their views, or that you're perfectly fine making money from them, and are comfortable with that ideology being the backbone of your base. And this did go on for at least a week, where every single time I said anything, my mentions were just filled with the most vile far-right rhetoric from Wendigoon fans. And if anyone ever criticized me, and people's reaction to it was to immediately start using hate speech, I would shut that shit down so fast. I think that most decent people who work online would do the exact same. And if they don't want to be seen as a big group
What a hero. Oh, you would tell the commenters, don't be mean.
of Nazis, then let's see how they react to this video's existence, because I am certain they will be very level-headed about all of this. Right in the midst of this going on, a very funny thing happened, and
He's acting very smug about their opinions here, but he ended up listening to them and taking down the video, so I don't know, it doesn't hit very hard.
Wendigoon followed me on Twitter. I was not following him at the time. He never publicly told people to stop calling me a faggot. He never once reached out to me privately, but he did
Yeah, so before, remember he's saying if you follow somebody, that means you co-sign their ideas and you agree with them. But now that Wendigoon followed him, now it has totally different meaning, right? He doesn't agree with everything that this guy said. It's actually because he hates him and he's meddling. That's why he followed him. So follow means whatever this guy wants it to mean, whatever supports his argument.
which means in my eyes that he 100% knew what was happening because I did tweet about it several times, and then followed me to let me know that he knew, and that he was watching and that he intended to do nothing to stop it. Why else would he follow me in that exact moment? He has never interacted with a single one of my posts, not one like, not one comment. We are not friends. But he does follow me. He follows next to nobody on Twitter. What other motivation could he have had there to follow me in that specific moment, other than to be a method of quiet?
Well, you could have seen you talking shit, and then your fans talking about you, and he's like, "Oh, let me see what's up with this." I don't know if that's what it was, but I would think that's what it was based off the timing here.
And deniable intimidation. What other way could that have been read?
It was intimidation. So it goes from being support to intimidation.
from my perspective. If you think it was entirely coincidental, which he may argue it was, then I've got a sack of magic beans I'd like to sell to you. That was the moment that pushed me over the edge to make this video. There are other very public instances from him of transphobia and homophobia, like when he allegedly said, calling Chris Chan, a man who mutilated his body with a box cutter because 4chan said he was a girl, holds a deep hatred for men and most women, decided to be a girl so that he could hook up with lesbians, and now abused his mom. She is disrespectful to and delegitimizes trans people. Like he, a very publicly straight, married Christian cis man, somehow is the authority on what legitimizes a trans person's identity. He has tried to cover this up and has denied that it happened, but I think there's enough evidence to say that it most likely did. One user said at one point, he's been constantly misgendering her on Twitter despite being corrected numerous times, to which when
Like, I get if you disagree with that sentiment, but I would think if you are a trans person and you're telling somebody about your story somewhat, you're like, oh yeah, growing up, I felt so conflicted. I felt like I couldn't relate to anybody else, and there are parts of my body that, as they developed, just caused me genuine stress and despair, and I had to go to therapy and talk to a bunch of doctors to kind of figure out what was going on with me. And then the person goes, "Oh, right, just like Chris Chan. I know about Chris Chan. Oh, cool." Like, would that not suck? Would that not be the last thing you want to hear? Like, I could definitely see that people agreed with that opinion and like it not being a hateful thing at all.
Wendigoon said, show me one time I misgendered her on Twitter. Actually, please don't watch my content if you're going through my replies and monitoring followers, who may just be unaware of Chris Chan's entire lore. Perhaps people just not knowing something doesn't mean that they're a transphobe. But
Okay, if he's denying something he did, that is weird, but I don't know if he did.
if we go back and look at old screenshots from this time, you can see that this account is quote tweeting Wendigoon's transphobic tweet, but if you go to that account today, that post is now quote tweeting a deleted tweet, which to me shows that more than likely Wendigoon went mask off with his transphobia, and then deleted the tweet sometime afterwards, when he realized that people would be mad about it. But there's a very small chance that this is not true because I did not take the original screenshot, so make of that what you will. We could talk about the time that Nick Spheres did a video about the disturbing movie Iceberg, who is a great horror trans creator, and I really hope that she's not mad at me for mentioning her here.
I think a trans horror creator makes more sense, but yeah, he just has to let you know this is what Wendigoon thinks about trans people. But me, I like them. I might even watch one of their videos every once in a while.
Because I think she's very cool and you should definitely go read her books. But Wendigoon famously did a very popular video on that particular iceberg challenge as well, and in the comments of her video, he said, "We will be watching your career with great interest," which is just kinda gross, because in a way it is similar to him following me. It is him telling her that he sees that she's doing similar content to him, and his presence in the comments is undercutting her video, while he also
It's so bizarre, the motivations he prescribes to these actions. Because he said that the person who posted the video, this Nick Spheres person, she replied, "Ooh, woo, oh, whoa," or something. So it seems like she didn't take it as some sinister form of intimidation. She's like, "Oh, cool. Wendigoon, this creator with millions of subs, commented on my video."
at the same time seemingly makes it look like he supports trans people. Like in the responses to his
Yeah, there it is. Ooh, woo, oh, woo.
comment, people are saying things like, Wendigoon says trans rights, while meanwhile he's simultaneously tweeting about Chris Chan multiple times. We could talk about another time, where someone made a YouTuber gay sex alignment chart and put Wendigoon as a sub-bottom, to which he responded to them and said, "What did I do to hurt you?" Which, clearly is a joke, but also the worst kinds of straight guys when they make jokes related to queerness, almost exclusively direct the punchline at femme gays and bottoms, because they view them as lesser than masculine tops.
I get where you're coming from, but I think a lot of the times the way that straight guys talk about that is because if you imagine yourself in the hypothetical position, if you were doing the insertion, you're assuming that the person you're doing it with is consensually there, right? So it's not, there's nothing terrible, there's no assault going on. But then if they view themselves as the other person as the bottom, then that means they're basically being assaulted, right? Like, I think that's the main reason that guys talk about it in the way that they do. It's not any hatred towards certain types of gay guys. It's just they're imagining themselves as, somebody being assaulted, basically. And so they don't like that.
He has multiple times said that he supports queer people, but I think his actions in private clearly paint a different picture. He once tweeted, saying, "I do not care if someone is gay or straight. Sexuality is no one's business but the individual. Don't make assumptions. I make an effort to stay away from politics and social issues." Which, first off, equating sexuality with politics kind of already shows what you kind of think of the issue. And second off, clearly, as we have seen, everything
Right, because there's not there's not one political side that's talking about LGBT all the time, right?
that he does has deep political motivations, and to argue that he's just a horror YouTuber is comical. Far-right figures are often the only ones who hide their harm under a false shield of wanting to seem like they have no strong beliefs at all, because their real views are so socially abhorrent. And the thing that people kept saying to me in all of this was, why do you even care? Which, if you watch the comments under the video, I guarantee you will happen again, with takes like, oh, he's just a YouTuber.
Well, maybe if you hadn't deleted the video, we could see that, but you deleted the video.
Why does it matter? Or, so what if he's a conservative? Is that a problem? Which, the answer to that is yes. But the
So there you go. He just straight up says it. If you're a conservative, that's a problem.
reason that I care is because this does not belong in horror, or anywhere. I care deeply about horror, and everything that he does has demonstrated so far in his career that he should not be welcomed in our spaces, or even, just in public in general. I think that
He says Wendigoon should not be welcome in the horror YouTube space or in public. He should not be allowed to be around decent people.
these things clearly showcase a repeated pattern, in my opinion, of racism and homophobia, while on top of that, being very irresponsible and dangerous with his large platform. Like, I think that anyone who supposedly accidentally starts a neo-Nazi hate group and fully acknowledges that they did that should not be accepted within society at all. They should not be.
Okay, but you said that he was wrong about that, and there's basically no way that he did it, right? So I think my theory about him being a dumb kid talking about memes with his friends and thinking they were more part of a movement or whatever makes more sense. I don't have any idea what actually happened, but neither do you.
Celebrated. They should be treated for what they are. Because remember, kids, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them.
So yeah, there's his video, or a part of his video where he went after Wendigoon. And now 6 months later, and I know that was a big intro, but otherwise you don't have any context for this video. It's been so long, you don't remember how unhinged it was.
Hi. I don't really know how to start this, so I guess I'm just gonna start talking.
Oh, and he also uploaded this on his second channel, IPOS Darksides, that he just started up and has 250 subs now after this video coming out.
I guess. It's been a while.
So he's not trying to make it too well known to his friends or his fans. Only if you seek it out. I think he says something along those lines, which is very weird, but
Hope you've been okay. I didn't want to really use a script for this video because anything that I say will be talked negatively about. And if I'd used a written response, I felt like people would be like, oh, he's just, doing this for PR. I didn't want it to feel like a statement that a politician would put out. I just wanted to be me talking to you, human to human. So apologies if this is a bit rambly.
Human to human, over the internet, through computer.
This is a little different for me. I was just gonna talk. And I guess I'll start with kind of a big piece of criticism was that I just sort of disappeared. And I did that kind of for two reasons. One was that, of course, anything that I said wasn't going to help the situation that was happening. And so I just left. And I didn't want to really talk about it, and this is the last time I'm ever going to publicly talk about the situation again. I just also felt that people would be kind of annoyed if I tried to come back and start making things again and just pretend like nothing ever happened. I didn't want to do that. Also, I don't really know how to make this video because
Well, I think you're right, though, that pretty much no matter what you say, it's not really going to help you. It's just going to sound like excuses. You probably would have been better off just because he did just upload that 6-hour video to his main channel one day ago. One day ago.
the history of YouTube apology videos is
But he should have just done that video and move on. Move on. It's been 6 months, bro.
a format that is consistently made fun of for good reason. And I'm not anti-apology at all. I'm not. It's just that usually someone who works on the internet will mess up and then immediately will put out an apology video and be like, I'm not that person anymore. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I've changed, guys. And it's complete bullshit. Everybody knows that it's bullshit because you're like, what do you mean you're not that person anymore? You just said that thing 2 days ago. Of course you're that person. And so with my situation, I said I was going to be gone for a month. Clearly I needed a break. I wasn't doing very well, and I ended up taking more than that because I wasn't ready to come back. And I really wanted to come back with something that showed what I could do. That showed that I would be willing to listen to.
Isn't that crazy? In that video, which is the one that he uploaded 6 months ago, he's complaining about how he doesn't make as much money, he doesn't get as many views and then he just doesn't upload for 6 months. It's like, oh wow, I feel so bad for your money troubles. You just stop doing your job for 6 months.
criticism of me because I always am. I always want to do better, and so I hope that the John Waters video has kind of shown that. This was kind of a wake-up call moment for me. So, you know, that's kind of where I'm at the moment. And I guess one of the main things I wanted to talk about here is that, like, you know, when you do anything in a very public way that isn't received particularly well, people are going to do two things, which is like ascribe a motive for why you did that thing, and also wildly speculate about yourself to
So like what you did to Wendigoon for 40 minutes straight.
put attributes onto you, that often aren't true. And, I definitely am guilty of doing that in the past, even in the bad conservative horror movie video. So I kind of wanted to talk more about me here than other people, which is something I don't really do all that much. One of the biggest things that has kind of always surprised me my whole like career on YouTube is people thinking that I hate Christians. And I don't at all. I don't hate religious people at all. I myself am a Methodist, and I have gone to annual conference with the Methodists for the past, I think, 4 years because I have an invested interest in how the church is dealing with LGBT members, which is an ongoing thing with the Methodists. I don't hate Christians at all. I can be very critical of Christians. I don't like evangelicals. I don't like proselytizers. And usually if I'm being critical of religious people, it's because they're using the religion as part of their online brand. And if you're like mixing money or your business with your religion, that is almost certainly like a perversion of whatever your religion is teaching. And, I don't want to get
That's weird to me, as pretty sure most religions encourage proselytizing because they want everybody to hear the good word. And I get being against it from the perspective that it's annoying or whatever, but it's weird that you would hold just entirely hold it against people morally for doing that when for most religions it's probably part of what they're supposed to do.
into anything. I'm not trying to like double down here with what I'm saying in this. I'm not trying to like critique people. I'm just trying to talk about where I come from with things because I'm realizing like a big issue with my writing is saying something and just assuming that people understand what I mean instead of actually trying to explain my point more, because I cover a lot of points in videos and sometimes I'm guilty of hitting a point really quick and then moving on, especially because I kind of am also guilty of making a lot of my work assuming wrongly that people are familiar with my past and my like work as well. I kind of make every video, or did make every video, as a sequel to all of my previous work, and that kind of came up twice with the bad conservative.
If you're saying it seems like you just assume people agree with you, that I would agree with, but I don't know about
One
this.
was an offhanded mention to Lovecraft that I talked about, where people were like, "What the fuck is he talking about?" Like, and like because I had made like a 2-hour video about Lovecraft in the past, I felt like I could just make an offhanded, like, quick one-sentence reference to Lovecraft and it not be a big deal, and not explain it. You know what I mean? Because I just assumed people will get what I'm talking about because of that video. And another big one.
No, the criticism is like when you didn't even know if tweets and stuff were actually real. 'Cause you're like, well, I'm assuming that this deleted tweet was this and that sort of thing. Like you don't actually have concrete proof of the things that you're saying. That's way more what people were critiquing you for than just assuming we'd seen your previous videos.
One that came with is when I talked about race in Appalachia. A lot of people weirdly thought that I was northern or not from Appalachia. People were saying like, Appalachia sends its regards and shit like that. But like, I've lived in the Appalachian Mountains basically my whole life, and I made like a 2+ hour video explaining my complicated views of the American South with the Joanne Denton video, where I talked about how like I love
Your complicated views of everybody in Appalachia is racist until they prove otherwise if they're white. Yeah, that's very nuanced.
Carolina and how I've lived here my entire life, and how much of an impact this place has had on me. But also to pretend that the South doesn't have a major problem with racism is like kind of insane, and I talk in that video about like the
That's not what people were doing, okay? You said something crazy.
heavy Klan presence in areas of North Carolina. I talk about casual social racism and stuff like that. So like I felt like I was okay to make a one sentence like throwaway thing because I'd already explained my position on that in the past. I don't hate Appalachians. I live here. And I have chosen to live here for a long time now. And the reaction to that in particular I think was really strong. And there was also a lot of criticism saying that like I didn't handle the situation gracefully, which I didn't. But also I'd like to see anybody that would. Things got really intense there. My entire town a few weeks ago.
Well, the thing is, I think most people would have been able to stop themselves from scripting, filming, editing, and uploading such an unhinged segment about somebody. there are so many points along the way where you can reassess what you're doing and think about it and stop yourself. But you did not do that, all right? So I really think most people would have a hard time getting to the point that you did to begin with. But I mean, especially if they're not YouTubers or whatever, sure, they probably wouldn't handle the backlash very well. But that's because they're not YouTubers. If you're a YouTuber, you should be able to handle it decently.
It was basically destroyed from the hurricane. And like there were like tweets still 5 months later saying, well, at least In Praise of Shadows probably died in that. You know, things were really, really hot
Well, sure, that's mean. People shouldn't do that. But I mean, come on, man.
and uncomfortable. You didn't see the best side of me in that. And that's all that I can say is it was a bad day for me. It was a bad period for me. You know, I was kind of made into this like cartoon
I was going through a rough period.
character where I am impossible to get along with people who are on the right, which is actually not true at all. I know this sounds like made up, but the guy that I hired to work on the set with me for the John Waters video was wearing a Make America Great Again hat like the entire time we were working. But he does a good
So he says, "Oh, I have a Republican friend. How could I hate Republicans?" But I think I kind of talked over it in the other video. But he says Wendigoon, saying that he grew up around Native American people and Americans that told these old stories and the folklore and stuff. That's why he's into this sort of stuff. And in Praise of Shadow said that's not okay. But then here he says, "No, how could I hate Republicans? I worked with a guy who wore a MAGA hat." Hmm.
job. And that's just the realities of living in the American South. I am not this insane person who like it's impossible to get along with. So yeah, and with the Appalachian thing came an added commentary that I was kind of surprised about, where a lot of people said that I hate poor people or I look down on people, that I like hate lower income individuals, which like I'm a lower income individual in Appalachia. Like I don't hate
That's because you don't upload, all right? You do not have to be like that. You went 6 months without uploading. Most people, if they don't work for half the year, would be low income. You have to have a pretty crazy job to only work those 6 months and not be living in poverty at all.
hate anybody like that. I don't hate anybody at all. I think that everybody should have their needs met no matter what they believe. You know, as far as like reviews are concerned, I am gay, and with that comes like a certain level of snobbery with like the arts and stuff like that. But because I like have high expectations of works of art does not mean that I hate poor people. Okay, I don't think that certain people should be in power. I don't think that certain people should have social power. And in that I kind of want to get into the conservative video itself. Okay? So, in the like hating poor people thing, apparently I also don't like normal guys. And like the thing that's kind of funny about that is that like kind of this whole situation came about because I was a normal guy. So like I'm notoriously difficult.
No, no, a normal guy does not make that Wendigoon segment. I'm sorry. They don't. A normal person does not read into all of those things that you showed us nearly as much as you do. Like that video was unhinged, man. That's not normal to do at all.
To get a hold of. And that's because I'm not
Like you have to have a messed up head. You have some stuff to work through if you put out that segment.
really online at all. I don't tweet. I genuinely don't
Maybe if you were like drunk on stream and you said some of the stuff, you could argue that, but no, no, not when you script, film, edit, upload a segment.
don't spend much time on Twitter at all. I don't have any other social media. Before this I was getting on Discord like once every like 6 months. For the most part I'm
Okay, well, and again, not having social media, that's not really normal. I think more than 50% of people have social media.
not friends with other online content creators. I probably watch in between 3 and 5 YouTube videos a month. And that is not like a dig at other YouTubers. That's not saying that they don't make excellent work because there's a lot of great work on YouTube. But like it comes to like this thing where like back when I used to make comics, I would draw comics all day. And the last thing I'd want to do when I finished drawing for 10 hours would be to like pick up comics and read them before I went to bed. You know, like I didn't want my entire existence to be comics. I wanted inspiration from everywhere in my life. And so I used to watch a lot of YouTube, like back before I was a YouTuber. But then I started making videos, and I make videos all day long, and I don't want to like turn around and then like watch more
How are you gonna say you make videos all day long? You don't put out enough content to say that at all.
YouTube videos. So like when I say I don't watch like a lot of YouTube, it's not to put down other creators, but just to try and to explain how this situation happened, because the why is kind of, self-apparent. And so
So yeah, I guess he's just saying he's so offline. That's why he had that take about Wendigoon. Yeah, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it, man.
When you're not an online person, but you feel compelled to write a piece about online culture, looking at it from a distance, trying to figure out what is real, it's a different kind of research. And I totally was not the guy to do that job. I felt like it was important. I felt like nobody else would do it. And I knew that the reaction was not going to be good. I knew it was going to be bad. So, kind of most of my mistakes and problems came from that, though. Because, like, I didn't know who Sneeko was before I made that video. And I didn't really know who he was when I posted that video. And so
Yeah, he's bringing up Sneeko because one of the things that he did in that video, didn't show it, is he parroted Sneeko's claims that Brandon Buckingham threatened to SA Sneeko's at the time girlfriend. But all he was saying was that, like, he goes on to explain it in another video, but he says that Sneeko's girlfriend had flirted with him and his friends in the past or whatever last time that they hung out. And then the actual message that Sneeko is saying, claiming was a threat, was him saying, you know, oh, Sneeko, we're going to come through your town and give it to your girl the way she likes it or something like that. Like in the language, it was implied that she was down for it. And Sneeko characterized that as an SA threat, as if Brandon Buckingham was saying, against her will, I'm going to do it. But no, he was saying she flirted with us before, she'd be down for this. And so we would, you know, I don't remember what it was, but it might have been like run a train on her or something. But yeah, so he says he doesn't even know who Sneeko was, and then he's just going to parrot that claim. Like, that's not a good reason, man. Even if you do want to critique Brandon's message, to just go with Sneeko's characterization of it is wild.
So while it's like really serious, and I admit that, and I am sorry, I took the video down like immediately because I realized the video had major problems. But like, it also at the same time, in retrospect, is a little bit funny that I tried to be like, this guy's the fucking worst. At least, you know, according to Hitler. And like, you know, I fucked it. I fucked it pretty bad. And there's not really a lot else I can say about it. You know, what's done
Yeah, it is. It is hilarious to use Sneeko to call somebody out, especially for this type of guy. Like it is hilarious that he would go, "Hey, according to Sneeko, this guy's bad." So that's all the confirmation I need.
done is done. I can't take it back. But also, ultimately, that's like what a whole section of YouTube is about. I may have done that really badly, but like, there are channels that just exist just to talk shit about people like all the time. And I don't want to be that guy. I'm not trying to be that guy. I'm not trying to
Mentioned.
escalate the situation. I'm just trying to describe my perspective of how this happened. Because at the end of the day, everything's fine. You know, I fucked up. But also, nobody that I mentioned in that video was harmed at all. You know, everybody's doing fine. And that's kind of like how
Like, they weren't actually harmed, so that makes what you did okay. Your actions still reflect on your character, even if they didn't have the desired outcomes of canceling Wendigoon or whatever you wanted to do with that video.
that genre of YouTube
Just means you're a failure.
works anyways. The whole drama machine ultimately just exists for money. And I shouldn't have been a part of that. I shouldn't have contributed to that. I felt like there were important points to make. I did not word them well. I had no fucking chill. I could have done pretty much everything in that better, but you live and learn. You know, I don't know what else to say. Other than I will do better, and I kind of want to get into like personal criticisms against myself now. Because I think that's a good
So even by his own admission, sounds like he's pretty much saying it's the worst video ever.
segue. So like with that video, there was a lot
But he doesn't really. He barely touched on what he did in the video. I mean, maybe he goes into more things here, but
of comparison
I haven't watched the whole thing.
to the Dan Olson video that came out soon after mine and the H Bomber Guy plagiarism video. There was a lot of like comparing the three of us, and I think like the only commonality between those three videos is YouTubers talking about YouTubers. With two of them being good videos and one of them being like a really bad video. But people were ascribing like saying that I was jealous, and that's why I was making that video. And I just want to say I am not a jealous man, and I never have been.
Okay, well, it sounded like you were jealous because earlier in the video, in that clip that we watched, you're complaining about he didn't get as many views and you're not making as much money and you only made $500 in AdSense one month. No, not including what his Patreon was bringing in. And then you go on to talk about Wendigoon and how he doesn't deserve his platform. Really does come across as at least somewhat motivated by bitterness.
I have never made a single video on YouTube to chase trends. I have never made a video because someone made a popular video like that. You know, that is not the kind of guy that I am, and I never will be. I've always made what I think is interesting, what I am compelled to do, what I think is right to do. You know, I can definitely work on my tone with critical pieces, but like, I wasn't doing that video as a ripoff of somebody else's style. You know, for better or worse, that video was authentically me. And to prove that, you can go back and watch the video
Yeesh.
on Encyclopocalypse that I did the previous summer that has like the exact same tone and wording and style and presentation of that bad conservative horror movie video. You know, they're very, very similar. I feel like as far as critically, this was very me. If it came across as being a ripoff of somebody else, that was not the goal. You know, I feel like that came across to some people and not to some people, but that's
Yeah, I mean, I don't care about this criticism. If you were doing it in the style of somebody else, who cares?
all I have to say on that. But similarly to the Encyclopocalypse video, I wasn't trying to ruin anybody's life. I wasn't doing this because I wanted a lot of views. In fact, I did know that people were going to hate this. You can go back on my Twitter and like weeks before I
Okay, but that doesn't mean you didn't want views, right? I know people are gonna hate some of my videos, right? Some of these videos that have 97% dislike. I'm not shocked that people were upset when I question if Asmongold is really as suicidal as he claims, right? I understand that people would be upset by that.
posted it, I
Doesn't mean I don't want views.
said, my next project people are really going to hate. If I said that people are really going to hate this, then that doesn't line up with the narrative of me doing it because I wanted to be popular. You know, with the jealousy thing, like, it feels very strange to me because to my ears, it's like critiquing the president and saying something that you don't like that the president did. And then somebody saying, well, you're just saying that because you want to be president. And like, no, I assure you, I don't want to be the president. Critical people.
Okay, but like when Kamala Harris critiques Donald Trump or the other way around, it is true that they want to be president. So, yeah, just it doesn't really say anything either way.
Pieces can exist on people without them like destroying people, and I actually say that in the bad conservative horror movie video. I said with the John Squire section of that video that I don't want to ruin people's lives because of things that they've said, that I think that we should be forgiving and open to people changing. And if it was just some like
Okay, that is just a crock of shit, man. No, there's you cannot say that with the segment you put out.
dumb things said like as an 18-year-old, who gives a shit? Everybody said really dumb things when they were a kid, and that shouldn't be held against them. I just saw things that I disagreed with from people that I felt like had a big public platform. Being critical of that doesn't mean that you want their lives to be ruined. You know, I ultimately was making that as an invitation for wanting people to do better. And if the one person who comes out of bad conservative horror movie deciding to do better is me, then that's a good thing. You know, one of the major criticisms of me
So uploading that terrible video was a good thing because it made me realize I was a complete idiot that needed to work on themselves. I mean, could you not justify just about any terrible video with that logic? As long as people make enough fun of you that you realize you're dumb, it's okay.
that came up a lot in that time period was related to citing sources, which I fully upfront admit I can be a lot better at. And starting from now, I will be. The John Waters video, if you go and look at it, has a full works cited in the description. Historically, I do like try and show where I get my information from, but I always try to do it in a visual way. Historically, you know, I would say like according to Variety, and then I'd throw up a screenshot of the Variety article, you know, and post that so everybody could see the title and where I got it from, but being done in kind of a fun visual way. Clearly, people don't really like that, so I can do a full traditional like works cited where I list everything from now on. You know,
I mean, maybe some people cared about this. I didn't. I don't really remember hearing this being a big deal, but okay, if you want to credit people better, that's good, I guess. I honestly, I think most time if you just, screenshot who published the article or whatever, then you link to it, I think that's pretty solid for YouTube videos. Maybe if you're trying to do like a formal essay sort of thing, then you should do a works cited. But if you're doing media critique, I don't know that you need to do all that.
my entire career, I have tried to approach everything with compassion and understanding and love. And you don't have to believe that, but I hope that my track record shows that. You saw me on a really bad day. And I have tried for the past 5 months to really reckon with that and actually confront that. You know, I didn't want to put out like an apology video 2 days afterwards because nobody learns things in 2 days. That's just reacting. It's not listening to what people say and acting. And there's a big difference there. And like everyone, I'm a work in progress. You know, I want to be the best me that I can be. And I'm not saying that to protect my money. I'm not saying that to protect my reputation. I'm saying that because it's true. And if I wanted to protect my money, you know, or my reputation, I would have done this on like the main channel. You're only watching this if you sought this out, you know? So it is what it is. People can think what they want of me. I will continue to do better. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm sorry for everything. Genuinely, where I fucked up, for not having any chill, for just being a kind of an asshole. So I guess that's where I'm going to leave this. I'm going to be doing more videos on here. I'm going to try and do like near weekly videos on here. I think that's kind of fun. I'm going to try and do, they won't be unscripted like this. They will be scripted, but they will be shorter form. Like I'm aiming for like 10 to 20 minute videos on like obscure, weirder movies. A lot of them not really good movies, but interesting.
So you're gonna be able to do those daily? Makes it seem like it shouldn't take you nearly as much time to do these other videos. But maybe they'll be. Well, he's saying he's gonna script them anyway, though. So it can't take as much time to make these videos as he makes it seem.
In their badness or amateurness, you know. And hopefully that'll be a good time. And then for the main channel, I'm just gonna focus on like really big videos there that I put like everything I have into, you know, like I did with the John Waters one. So what I'm gonna do on the main channel is probably like every other video, like I'll do like franchise video, then big video, then franchise video, then big video, or I'll find like a rhythm that works and is kind of fun, and I'll listen to people and stuff like that, you know. This has put me in a weird place, but a place that has allowed me growth. I had been in a rut for a while. You can see the cracks all over a lot of my work, you know, like kind of from at least the carry video on. I just had a lot going on in my life. I was going through it, and I don't even want to talk about that because people will be like, oh, he's scapegoating things. And, you know, but I
Just bring it up generally, so you still do get to say it, but you don't have to get into any of the details. And then you're pretending like you're being a good person. I don't even want to get into it, guys. I don't want the sympathy bait. I just want to let you know that it would be reasonable to give me sympathy. I mean, it can't get into the details of why you should.
fucked up. And I guess that's all I could say. So, yeah, I'll do better. Thanks for listening for this. I know this was kind of rambly. Sorry if that was kind of hard to follow, but I'll do better.
Well, good for him. He's gonna do better now. He really needs to. I mean, it's just I don't think it was worth making this video because I mean, well, what are people saying? Are they down for this? Somewhat glad to see you back in this manner. It's also a bit more honest than I like it. Take it easy. I am glad you improved and that you came back. By the way, this video looks like a found footage video. We will be watching your career with great interest. They're referencing the that tweet from, or no, that was not a tweet. That was Wendigoon's YouTube comment to the horror trans creator, as this guy says. I'm really glad you're back. The fact people are defending him after he tried to gatekeep Native American myths is mind-boggling. Okay, that one's somewhat critical. Holy shit, he touched grass. Haven't watched it yet, but I need to say I'm genuinely happy to see you, man. Hopefully you're doing well. Okay, yeah, people are being pretty positive to that. But right now it's only at 4,000 views. I don't know how much it'll end up getting to, but I would think most of the coverage of this is going to be people like me who are hating on him. I don't know if it's really going to be worth it for him to do this. And he probably just could have gone straight to the videos that he says he's going to do on that channel now. But yeah, oof. That is a little bit rough to hear that he said he put everything he has into this Life of John Waters video. It's 6 hours long, and the view drop off is crazy. 140K, 180K, 150K, 100K, 85, 64, 236, 14K. It is only one day, but that's a little bit rough. I'm sure if he sticks to it, just keeps uploading, he'll get picked back up on the algorithm. He's got that type of content where, you know, it's got wide appeal. The media critique stuff people love, especially the long ones. Just put it on in the background while they do stuff. But yeah, I thought that was just not worth it for him to do that apology. And I don't know how much of it I buy. But hey, if he says he's figured it out and now he's gonna go back to doing YouTube videos, good for him. Because I don't really think it needed to be the career-ending thing that it was kind of looking like it was gonna be. I'm sure if he just gets back on it, he'll be fine.